Hey everybody. Chances are pretty good that at some point in your educational journey, you were asked to write an analysis. An analysis is a detailed exploration of the elements or parts of something. Most of us had to write literary analyses for our high school English classes, where we picked apart a short story, a play, or maybe a poem, and analyzed the various parts, talking about theme, setting, plot, character, imagery, so on and so forth. A rhetorical analysis, which is what this first longer writing assignment is, this first paper, it's a little bit different. Yes, you're analyzing something you've read, one of the 4 foundational articles you've been engaging with in weeks 1 and week 2. But the parts that you're analyzing are different than those things you may have explored in a literary analysis. So if you remember from week 1, you learned what rhetoric is, the art of speaking or writing effectively. You've also learned about the rhetorical situation, and those are the elements that are specific to a given moment of communication via writing or speaking. These include the text, which is the piece that the author, the writer, or the speaker is communicating. Then we have the author, the audience, the purpose, which is the reason why the author is motivated to communicate in the first place. And then we have context, which includes the time, the place, the culture, the surroundings at the moment of communication. Another thing that you learned about are the rhetorical appeals. Logos, which is the use of logic by using facts and figures and that kind of thing. Ethos, which is the appeal to credibility, and pathos, which is the appeal to the emotions. So in your rhetorical analysis paper, you're going to be analyzing or exploring the various parts of the rhetorical situation and the rhetorical appeals used in your chosen article. You don't need to go into a deep dive of every aspect of rhetoric in your paper, but you should be able to say something about the article. What do I mean by say something? Well, when we set out to write, we're addressing our own rhetorical situations, right? That means we have something to say and we have a reason to say it. So your job is to figure out what you want to say about the article. And this is something that you'll develop into your thesis statement, which is the main idea of your paper. What is it that you want to say about your chosen article? Perhaps you think that McWilliams relies heavily on pathos to persuade his audience that the ease of digital life is compromising our sense of self. Or perhaps you think Konakova's ideas that were written in 2013 no longer apply to a culture that has experienced the necessary social distancing of a worldwide pandemic. So whatever it is that you want to say about the article, that's something that will be developed into your thesis statement. So let me share the course page here. I have to get my share screen thing up. And we'll take a look at the rhetorical analysis assignment. So this is a 3 to 4 page essay, right? Roughly about 1,000 words, where you're going to examine the rhetorical effectiveness of one of the readings that you've chosen to analyze. So some of the things that you're going to think about, or actually the criteria that will help you to describe, analyze, and rank the text. Your criteria should draw from your understandings of rhetoric thus far. So you might consider author credibility as the most important aspect of the article, right? And that would kind of be what drives your thesis. Other people might give more attention to the emotion at work that is in the text and on the reader, or perhaps even the text employment of logical evidence. Perhaps there's one text that uses lots of research and studies to back up what they're trying to say, and that's how they persuade the audience. Audience, relevance, and more might also factor into your criteria. What will you pay most attention to as you engage that text? So there are several questions that you should consider as you begin writing. You want to think about the author's purpose. You want to think about the possible audiences, both real and imagined. Remember, I spoke to audience last week in week 2, and that there are 2 types of audiences that we often think about when we sit down for a writing test. So you need to think about what audience the author may have been trying to reach in the text. Who was meant to read it? What specific features of the text help you to figure that out? You may also want to think about how the author develops authority with the audience. Does the author have the authority to speak on this topic? Do they have credentials that make them an expert in a certain field? For example, Sherry Turkle is a professor of social sciences, so she has a wealth of experience under her belt. So you might want to go in that direction if you choose Turkle as the author that you want to discuss, and her article. What emotions come to mind as you engage with your text? Is there something that makes you angry, or are you excited? Are you confused? You can think about that. And what is the context of the text? Remember, think about things like the year the text was written, and you should be able to see that on the article. If not, it's very easy to Google the author's name and the title of the article and find out when it was written and where it was published. Some of them have been published in notable publications such as the New York Times or the New Yorker. There may be publications that you've never heard of, but it may be a special, have a certain audience that they tend to cater to with their articles. So think about the context. When was it written? Were these all written in the United States, or were they written in various countries? That kind of thing. What kinds of assumptions does the writer make about his or her audience's values, their identities, the community memberships, and is the author successful at addressing those things? What is the desired outcome or result that this article has? Is the author effective in persuading their audience? And then, of course, as I said before, you want to think about the rhetorical appeals or the strategies that the author uses to influence you as an audience member and to influence the attitudes, actions, and belief of the intended audience. And then when you look back at the text that you are analyzing, what is your biggest takeaway in terms of the rhetorical approaches? So I don't want you to be making an argumentative essay for this. You are really analyzing how the writer approaches the writing task and how effective they are, right? I don't want you to be super critical and make an argumentative essay for this paper. We will be constructing argumentative essays further on down the line, so keep that in the back of your heads. But this one, I really want you to examine the rhetorical situation and the use of rhetorical appeals in your analysis. So there are some suggestions for how to organize this paper. Of course, your introduction should be a general summary of the text. You're going to introduce your reader. You have to assume that whoever reads your paper has not actually read the text that you're discussing. So you want to give a general summary that would include who wrote the piece, what the title is, that kind of thing. And what is the text doing or saying? Who is the audience, right? You're going to have your thesis statement, what it is you want to say about this article in your introduction paragraph. And then body paragraphs, you should have at least 3 body paragraphs. You may need more if you have more things that you want to talk about. But I want you to use evidence from the text to help support the thesis that you have in your introduction. So you're going to summarize the author's main idea in the text, explain context, target audience, that kind of thing. And then the rhetorical strategies the text uses to target the audience, and any textual strategies, the author's use of diction, tone, that kind of thing, and how that targets the audience and their values. So we haven't talked a whole lot about diction and tone, but I think you will get it. You know, some texts are a little bit more formal and they may not feel as welcoming or what I'd like to call accessible to certain readers. So that is something you can think of and say, you know, maybe so-and-so uses more formal language and it's not as easily understood by what we call a lay audience, but they're writing for a particular audience that has some knowledge in this field. So diction is how you use words, tone is how you say it, that kind of thing. And then in your conclusion, you're of course going to recap and discuss any cultural implications or ideas. And this is where your opinion on the piece can really come in. So as I said before, a minimum of 1,000 words, which is roughly 3 to 4 MLA formatted pages. If you don't know what MLA format is, this link to Purdue OWL will tell you how to format your papers in MLA format. Typically, you use 12-point font. It does not have to be Times New Roman, but it should be something that's very readable, not Comic Sans or anything outrageous. Double-spaced, and what else am I thinking? 1-inch margins. So if you click on this link, I'll actually open it up for you. So here is the Purdue OWL general format for MLA format. It will walk you through how to format your paper, give you the general guidelines, and they even give you an example of how the first page of your MLA formatted paper should look. So that's that. And then revise and submit your final essay by July 10th, Sunday, July 10th. Your submissions should be attached in the submission area in either a docx, or PDF format. For some reason, I don't think Apple Pages work all that well with Canvas or with my computer, perhaps. So if you have it in a Microsoft or PDF format, that will work best. And then there's rubrics below to show you what I am looking at as far as assessing your paper and evaluating your writing. Again, remember that I have a contract grading approach, which means that as long as you fulfill all the expectations, you will get a B on your paper. If you are exceeding those expectations, you're going to have an A. And if you're just kind of nearly meeting things, a C, and so on. So you really want to strive to fulfill all of these things that are required of you. And as long as you put forth a really good effort, you're going to do well. As far as drafts, if you want to submit your draft early, that's fine. I'll take a look at it and what was I going to say? Take a look at it and provide you feedback as far as how you should revise. If you choose not to submit a draft, you won't be penalized, but remember that every effort that you put forth as far as drafting and peer reviews and that kind of thing increases your chances of getting at least a B, if not an A, in the class. So every effort that you put forth is really for your benefit. This is the first time I've done contract grading, so I'm hoping that it will work out well and that it doesn't confuse students who are so used to getting grades, being graded in a certain way. So that is the rhetorical analysis paper. If you have any questions about it, please let me know. I know this first one, it might be a little bit rocky of a process, but I'll explain more in the overview video. So hopefully things will be crystal clear. And if it's not clear, please, please, please send me an email, shoot me a message and say, I'm still not really clear. that's why I'm here, to explain to the best of my ability and to guide you through this process of writing, okay? So there's the rhetorical analysis. Thanks. Bye-bye.